Okay. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankarashaya Mayamam Asmadashaya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Yom Avda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Tava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Tati Guru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om. So namaskara everyone. Good to see you again. So I haven't received any email message with questions. Does anybody have something to begin our satsang? Claudio, you came out of silence.
Yeah. Yes, I have a question. So,
Please.
When we say establishing your identity in awareness, how can we do that if awareness, the self, is we cannot objectify it? So what does it mean that, or maybe there is some advice in Vedanta for doing that? Because what I thought, I tell you what I thought about that, that the only way to do this is denying what you are not. Maybe is this the way? This is what it means, or
yeah, usually we begin that way. We begin negating, what is all objects. We begin negating the most primary object, which is the body that appears within us every morning when we get up, as I often say. So, I mean, that's Ruth wanting to come back again. Netinet, yeah. Ruth is saying Netinet. So we go negating everything, okay? That's usually how we begin. And then in the end, we need to understand that all of that was only for the purpose of isolating, and in a way that we could identify pure awareness, pure limitless awareness, and then understand that all objects, they are just superimposition on my own conscious awareness, my conscious existence, right? So, but first we need to separate. We need to make this intellectual distinction between I, the light, and the objects that appear within my light. And the intellect and the mind are objects appearing within my light, I, the light, the non-dual light of consciousness. Now, light, we are talking in terms of an analogy, okay? It's a nice symbol for the self, for consciousness, for awareness, for existence. So how are we going to make a state, how are we going to establish our identity as consciousness if we have always been consciousness? That's the point. We have always been consciousness. This is the first statement that we receive from Vedanta when we come into Vedanta. You are already free, limitless consciousness existence. So now, how am I going to establish my identity in consciousness?
Only through knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to remove those notions that still tells you that I am established as the body. Basically, that is the main ignorance, I'm established.
Okay.
I'm established in the body as the body. And now we say, so you need to establish your true identity. You need to shift your identity from the body to the light of consciousness. So you understand that you are the light behind the mind, behind the intellect. So you are this mind that pervades everything, the substratum of the intellect, the mind, and everything else.
Mhm.
And Ruth, can I ask you one favor, my dear? Because I'm alone here, I have to watch people coming.
Sure.
And it
Yeah.
distracts. When we have the opportunity for the next question, please bring all your notes. They are much welcome, okay? Because
Okay.
it's distracting, interrupting my line.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so now, going back, we go back to the point of how I'm going to establish my new identity, because my older in the body, and the body is aging. Okay, I am my mind, and my mind keeps changing. I am my notions, my concepts, my beliefs, and those also keep changing. So I feel like, oh my God, I mean, I have no real stable soil here where to stand. It's a fluxing, changing of phenomenal objects, by which I have established my identity. And now I have to establish my identity in consciousness. So what is the difficulty to establish my identity in consciousness? Tell me, Claudio.
I have to. No, it's only that I have to clarify it. So I have to only remove the thought, the ignorant thought, where I believe that I am my body and my mind. So if I remove all this thought and I understand that I am the consciousness, I shift my identity, because I don't have the ignorant thought. I don't have the ignorant thought that I am my body. So that's it. Okay.
And how are we going to remove these notions that I am the body-mind complex? How am I going to remove that? Because it's
with the logic of Vedanta.
The logic of Vedanta, because if there is no logic, the intellect is not going to be convinced, and it's not going to allow this shift of identity. It's not going. It's going to remain really fixated with an idea. Yes, but. You understand? So this shift of identity is going to occur only to the extent that I have really knocked down or neutralized or canceled all those notions that establish my identity as the body. So I need to destroy those notions, and those notions are only destroyed by logic, by understanding, by knowledge. This knowledge has the power to dissolve those other ignorance-based thoughts or notions. We all think that, this is my knowledge, this is my knowledge, this is my knowledge. But a lot of our knowledge, they are not good knowledge. They're mistaken knowledge. So we need to utilize this pure knowledge, which is the revealed knowledge from the scriptures, to follow the logic of those statements, of those teachings, with trust, with confidence, with an open mind, not really like grabbing and just, being tightly attached to my notions, just a flexible mind. And then we go through this process, and then our thoughts, based on the notion that I am the body-mind, it starts just dissolving. They start being neutralized, being canceled, being removed, howsoever I don't like the idea much of removing, because it involves a kind of a physical effort of removing something, and then you don't really get rid. You just take it from one room and store in another compartment,
Yeah.
We want to destroy it. We want to cancel it. We want to kill it. We want to neutralize it. We want to burn those notions. And that's only possible by a deep, deep clarity of knowledge, understanding, that what the scripture are saying, the statements of the scripture, the statements of the Upanishads, they stand by pure knowledge, pure understanding, They stand by logic. So my logic, the intellect that's going to get it, and the intellect needs good knowledge, good logic. You understand? So when we say establishing myself or my identity in awareness, usually we go and we say, in awareness. So if we say in awareness, Claudia says, I establish myself in awareness now. What is happening here? Huh? I am here, the body mind, and I'm establishing myself in awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So we are dealing with duality, myself and awareness. And I'm trying to establish myself in awareness. There is a connotation of action and space. I'm going to go from here to awareness so that I establish my new identity in awareness. So we have to correct that any room for this confusion needs to be correct, you know, by adding something else. We're going to establish, I want to establish my identity, or I'm established, or I have established my identity in awareness as awareness. When they say, I establish my identity in awareness as awareness, and then it's clear that I have established my identity as awareness without having to move, without having to transcend, without having, you know, to anything, you know, ascend or whatever. There is no space, there is no action. It's just I establish my identity, that which I have always been, I will always be, in awareness as awareness. Okay, I am awareness. And now I'm just owning the fact that I am awareness. I'm just owning something that was already mine. I'm owning my freedom. I'm owning my moksha. It's all about owning. You understand? Claim and owning. Yes, oh, you know, I don't need to go and taking any physical effort. So no, it's just an intellectual effort to understand that which I already have, that which I already am. You understand? So it's establish my identity in awareness as awareness again and again until it's totally clear, until this understanding is firm, always available, doubtless understanding, doubtless knowledge, certainty of knowledge. Okay, it does not waver. You know, it's always there. You know, we have no problem to doubt. We never doubt the fact that we are human beings and not a butterfly or a pig or anything. We have this certainty of knowledge, right? So the same way we need to develop this knowledge, this firm conviction, this hard and fast knowledge, you know, in respect to my true identity, nature, in a way that there's no question anymore of doubts. You know, this knowledge, it frees the individual when it becomes doubtless, doubt-free knowledge. You know, it's clear. I have seen it. And how I know it, how I see myself. I see myself because I'm the light of the seer here who is seeing the world. And this light of the sea is always ever present. You understand? So it's an understanding, it's owning the light that is always ever present, you know. It's not an object of knowledge, not an object of experience, but yet it is the nature of the knower. The knower who objectifies phenomenon object has to understand its own light by which the world is seen, experienced, and known. I am the light by which I see, experience, and know the world. It's just a simple shift of understanding. And the moment that it is no longer just small glimpse, but it's a clear vision. Vedanta is often presented as a vision of wisdom, the vision of non-duality. It becomes a clear vision. Oh, yes, you know, I'm the light and nothing will ever happen to me. I never change, I never do anything, yet I am the only reality. I'm the substratum of everything. Everything has a relative reality born by me, you know, landed by me. So I'm the, you know, everybody gets its existence from me. Okay, somebody else came in. So anything else, Claudio? So we can elaborate a little bit more and feel free, Ruth, you can bring in some of your contributions now, maybe.
Thank you. I said, well, for me, it's the practice of karma yoga and learning to not become the doer. You know, initially I'm doing, then I'm an agent of the doing, and then I'm not doing anymore. So there's those kind of remembrances, if you will, is with regards to the practice of daily observances, you know.
Yeah. So this notion that we are doing this effort, this spiritual effort. In our case, it's intellectual effort, you know. So if I understood Bruce properly, she says that even that can be done without much of identification as a doer. Otherwise, the ego of the seeker of moksha, you know, the spiritual seeker, it gets in the way again, you know, because there is a question, I'm the doer, I'm the doer. The whole purpose here is to understand that I am not this ego doer, but I'm the light of consciousness. I want to shift my identity from the ego doer, the ego, yeah, that thinks that I think, I own, I control the field, I control my property. So we want to shift from consciousness. And consciousness is the only factor that is independently free of anything. Therefore, consciousness does not need to do anything. You understand? So we do not need to do anything. And anything that happens in the realm of our jivahood, of our jiva, you know, we invite to understand that Ishvara is the true doer. You understand? I don't do anything, and Ishvara is moving this jiva around and getting him, you know, to do all kinds of things according to its nature. And the only thing that this jiva has as a power is a relative free will, which is
you could say
the power to decide, you know, whether I'm going to go right or left, or, and most fundamentally, the power of living in harmony with Dharma, with these laws, with this field, you know, universal field, or violate it for the sake of my likes and dislikes. Yes, Ruth.
you could say that the jiva is the shakshi, is that the word? Sakshi, the observer of all the doing.
Yeah. So the jiva, because consciousness is not an experiencing observer. Consciousness is not an experiencing, witnessing principle, you know. Consciousness is a non-experiencing, witnessing principle. What it means to say that it's not at all a knower or experience. It's the principle by which, you know, the intellect of the jiva becomes a knower and an experienced entity. So the jiva, and only the jiva, is an experiencing entity. So Ruth is saying that this jiva, you know, once it is properly educated by the scriptures and develops this spiritual wisdom, and then he knows that that I observe this force of nature, these three gunas and so on. I observe Ishvara, my Ishvara, making everything dancing, dynamically dancing, including this body-mind. And I, as my subtle intellect, I have this subtle understand that it's all Ishvara. So I'm free as a jiva, as consciousness, awareness, and I am even free as a jiva properly educated by this spiritual body of knowledge, because I understand that even in Nitya, I have an insulation about in regards to everything that happens, because I just attribute it all to Ishvara without denying my responsibility, because what's the only responsibility we have? Is to exercise our free will in harmony with the laws of the Lord. Exercise our action, our response to the stimulus coming from the field in harmony with this natural cosmic laws, in harmony with the other beings, other creatures, without my swadharma, my apparent nature, and so on. So all we have to do is somehow understand, develop merits, get in contact with the scriptures, assimilate karma and dharma, and then we are called to exercise this free will wisely. How? By just responding in harmony with dharma, as opposed that responding only driven or by by gaining what I want or avoiding what I do not want. So I don't want to act, governed, by my likes and dislikes. I want to operate. I want to interact. So this is another level of freedom that I believe Ruth was pointing out. There is a lot of freedom with this spiritual knowledge, mithya knowledge, let's say, this knowledge of this apparent order of reality, this superimposition which Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat surface. If we have a clear understanding, knowledge of this mithya, we can already experience a nice degree of freedom. But this knowledge has to be very clear, and then this knowledge is going to gradually calm down the ego. The ego is going to convert all those emotional energies, I want, I don't want, and so on. But goes purifying this ego, the mind, and so on. And then he starts converting those energies into appreciation, devotion, and love, and gratitude and contribution. And, it's the jiva gets transformed. And then, of course, a purified mind of the jiva, it becomes fit for the Jnana Yoga of Vedanta, which brings about this doubtless certainty of knowledge in regards to my nature as limitless, free, unconcerned, natural, ordinary, as Ramji likes to say, limitless awareness, So the two levels of our spiritual practice. I mean, you have to remember that Karma Yoga is not just about practicing anything, because Karma Yoga also is knowledge yoga, because it's all about understanding all the knowledge operating mithya. Mithya is governed by all this knowledge that is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita, some aspects of the Gita, karma and dharma. So Karma Yoga is knowledge yoga. Jnana Yoga is knowledge yoga. It's more subtle. It's about discrimination between the consciousness, the light, and the intellect, and the mind, and the ego. So anything else, Ruth?
No. I guess I would just add to that the daily worship. Some bhakti helps a lot. Helps me a lot.
Yeah. And what kind of bhakti you do? What kind of bhakta are you?
Well, I know, like Dave, for instance, he likes kirtan, so music.
Yeah.
Music is good.
Being
in nature, listening to the birds.
Right. When you do your bhakti, when you are bhakta in reference to what? What is your object of devotion in this case? I mean, through music, through nature, through kirtan. What is your object of bhakti? Your object of devotion? Because when we are devotional entity, the devotional, we have our objects of devotion.
Yeah. Well, my Ishtadeva is Jesus, but in nature, it's the universal,
Right.
creation.
Yeah, nature, creation, and there's intelligent power, and Shakti, and so on. So we can find symbols of Ishvara too, in many different and creative ways. So the important thing is that what Ruth is saying is to appreciate life and to see Ishvara in its own creation. So because Ishvara is not only this intelligent order, is not only all this Shakti by which it projects and manifests the universe, but Ishvara is also the the material universe, manifest, as sentient beings and inert objects. So Ishvara is everything. So we can see Ishvara in anything. To be a bhakta, to be a devotional bhakta is to begin seeing the Lord manifest in all things, And then there is a higher kind of level of bhakti, is to see pure, limitless awareness as the substratum of the Lord, which is no different from the substratum of this jiva, which is no different from the substratum of all inert objects, So this is the shift between being a bhakta of Ishvara 2 for Ishvara 1. Ishvara 1 is a little bit more subtle. So, but to be devotional, it has to begin anywhere where we are in terms of subtlety of our minds. Yes, Ruth?
I live about a mile from the Colorado River, and this morning I was lying in bed trying to hear it. I think I could hear the river, and that was a wonderful, like, to find the spaces between the flow was very interesting practice.
Yeah, we can use our sense organs to appreciate the Lord, and to develop this. You see, Karma Yoga is a combination of two aspects. The first aspect of Karma Yoga is the logic, is the knowledge, is the rational, is the understanding of the laws operating and the way this macrocosmic body of vasanas operates us, individually and so on. So understanding all the mechanics of this relationship between the macrocosmic, and the micro, the jiva, and how we are fed, these vasanas, and the way I'm connected to these vasanas, because I need to supply this field of vasanas with my action. My actions, they are converted into vasana. So this is all the rational. So once we have this understanding, we have understand that Ishvara is in control, that we have no power to manipulate the field and control our destiny, the results. Once we have it all figured out, the mind relaxes. Oh my God, thanks God. Before I thought that I could make it happen, right? And now I know that I cannot make it happen, that Ishvara is the only one making everything happen. So this is such a, one relax. So this is the knowledge that brings about a state of deep relaxation in the mind, a deep let go, let be, in the same time, not forgetting that we are responsible. The small responsibility we have is to respond timely and appropriately on a moment-to-moment basis as life hits us. So this is the rational side. But the other side of Karma Yoga, which is called yoga, understand? So karma is these actions. These actions now are no longer based on my likes and dislikes, but they are based on the knowledge of how things work in the field called mithya. Now I'm operating from knowledge, knowledge about mithya. I'm no longer being operated by my desires and fears. Okay? So now I'm operating by the laws, the knowledge in respect to these laws, and then this relaxes the mind, and then gradually this attitude of devotion, of gratitude develops. And that's where karma, our actions, begin not only being moved by dharma rather than my likes and dislikes, but they begin being offered in the field with the spirit of gratitude, of contribution, adding value, understand that the field is Ishvara and I'm here to give more, and to contribute. So this is the other side of Karma Yoga. Is when Karma Yoga, it should not be only the rational, intellectual aspect of how this machinery works, but it should develop, should grow to become this attitude of gratitude, and then this process of mental, emotional, intellectual purification, refinement, it accelerates, you know, I mean, we are good to go. I find Karma Yoga to be the most natural and the most efficacious yoga to purify the mind, you know, much more than Vipassana yoga or meditation or any other kind of yoga. Because even if you would go for meditations and other means to purify the yoga, the mind, like Samadhi yoga, for example, but yet you have a pure mind. But in order to really appreciate and enjoy your moksha at the end, you need to go back and go through Karma Yoga, you know, because we need the entire knowledge. The knowledge has to be the knowledge in respect to Satya and Mithya. If you do Samadhi Yoga to purify the mind, and then you understand, oh yes, I'm limitless consciousness, but you don't have the Mithya knowledge, you may still find yourself very confused. And then you have to do your Karma Yoga later on. Otherwise, some arrogance may remain in the ego, you know, the subtle ego, the purified ego. Some arrogance is there because Karma Yoga did not resolve the Jiva into Ishvara too. You understand? So why not to begin with Karma and Dharma and just purify and finish the ego, prepare the ego so that he understands its position, you know? You understand? That makes sense.
I'm thinking with the what we're talking about here and being the doer or not being the doer, and what's the connection with Nidanyasana? So is Nidanyasana, is that kind of the same kind of thing, but more from a Yanni perspective?
Can you, the beginning of your phrase was?
I guess the beginning is just like we're talking as we're talking about.
I'm not the doer.
Yeah, I'm not the doer, and yet the doer. You know, we're making conscious decisions. We're making decisions or choices, and so the connection is that I'm trying to reconnect this with the concept of Nidanyasana, which my understanding is more of the integration of what we do into everything. So we're going beyond reflection, manana, and moving to Nidanyasana, which is really the my understanding felt it was the removal, if you will, of ignorance, and really the transformation, if you will, or the changing of the vasanas, so that we have a much more calm and peaceful existence. So I'm just thinking, is Nidanyasana, does that come from the Yanni perspective of this?
Well, and not necessarily. This is a good point, Dave. It's Vedanta is not only about Yana Yoga. You know, it's meant to begin. It suggests to begin with Karma Dharma, you know, and end with Yana Yoga. But some people get into Yana Yoga first, and then later on they have to come back if they really want to have this knowledge really fructifying as a sort of moksha, freedom from mental agitation and concerns and afflictions and so on. So he's going to have to come back to Karma Yoga. So Vedanta is about Karma, Dharma, and Moksha. The Bhagavad Gita is a scripture on Karma, Dharma, and Moksha. That's why it's so beautiful and complete. Okay? So when we talk about the three stages of Vedanta, they are valid for all our texts, including the texts on Karma, Dharma. You understand? As presented by the Gita. So when we get to the Gita for the first time, we have to listen, and then we have to pay attention, and then we listen again, and then we go home, we open our books, we open our notes, we contemplate, we reflect, and so on. We keep doing this work. So we are doing like these two stages, you know, Shravana and Manana. Huh? So we are doing this, and then simultaneously, and then we start assimilating, clearly understanding these laws and these principles, and we start developing this attitude, you know, of appreciation and devotion and gratitude and peace and so on. So this is the process of transformation or preparation or purification or elevation of the soul. Okay, so this is all happening through these three stages of listening, reading, and then reflecting, studying, contemplating, resolving doubts, and then bits by bits, we assimilate, we integrate it in our life. So this is all, it's all included. Okay, so one thing is Karma Yoga, Dhamma Yoga, and another thing is Jnana Yoga. So, and it's not to say that we should do one at the expense of the other. So we are working on our Karma Dhamma, but at the same time, we are work on discriminating I, myself, consciousness, awareness, limitless existence. I'm again and again exercise this intellectual power, and then I can test, I can see how refined, how subtle is my intellect, because the intellect needs to be very refined and subtle to effectively, discriminate consciousness from itself. It is the intellect is the only instrument to process this discrimination between Satya and Nitya. It's the intellect discriminate between the light that illumines and vivifies, enlivens this intellect, the light of consciousness from the intellect and every experience that is known by the intellect. So in the end, the intellect has to reject itself, but it's the intellect that is going to, do this subtle discrimination into everything that is experienced and known by itself from the light that enlivens, that, and vivifies and illumines the very intellect that's doing discrimination. So this is a sadhana that is very subtle. In the mind, the intellect needs to be more subtle. So we are invited to play with both. We play with Jnana Yoga and we play with Karma Yoga, and the way we just keep growing until we are really free. You understand? Does it answer you, David? Anything else?
I'm reflecting now, just looking at my notes, and you talked about karma, dharma, and moksha.
Yeah.
And then we have karma and bhakti or
Devotion.
And devotion and jnana yoga. So these are not all different yogas, are they? I mean, they're
no, not. That's a good point, Dave, because in our tradition there are only two yogas. There is only two yogas. I mean, James brought into our sampradaya the notion of dharma yoga. But in the tradition, there is no such a thing as Dharma Yoga. There is only Karma Yoga, and there is Jnana Yoga. The tradition of the Vedas presents two yogas, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga is a preparatory, something like that. Yeah.
preparatory, yeah.
Preparatory yoga, okay? So, and then Jnana Yoga is when your mind is refined, subtle, pure, and so on, and then it can do this subtle discrimination on a moment-to-moment basis until any doubt is removed, is cancelled, okay? So now there are some other spiritual circles that came up with the idea that there are different yogas, but within our tradition, everything that we do comes under Karma Yoga, including meditations, Upasana Yogas, devotional to our deities, and everything is under Karma Yoga. Why? Because it's an action. An action can be physical, can be verbal, can be mental, you understand? All of this, even silent repetitions of mantras, it's a mental action. So everything comes under Karma Yoga. So the only difference is that when you have done everything, all kinds of actions, Okay? And then when we come in the end, and then we have understood that none of those actions will free me. The only thing that's going to free me is to understand that I'm already free. Okay? And then we start contemplating on those very, very simple and subtle declarations of the Upanishads that establish your identity as pure, limitless awareness, consciousness. You understand? So when we start contemplate, we can still say, well, but it's a kind of action as well, because it's not a mental, it's not a verbal, it's not a physical action, it's an intellectual action. Yeah? And then we say it's okay, so it may be an intellectual action, we may call it an intellect, we may call this contemplation an action, but what is the difference between all the other actions and an intellectual contemplation? Is the intellectual contemplation in respect to our true nature, following the knowledge as presented by the scriptures, is conducive to what? To self-knowledge, to understanding. It's conducive to understanding, and understand to certainty of knowledge, and contemplate on I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, and so on. So I'm following the logic, I'm following the teachings, and I'm just obsessed, and my silent mind is there just, working on the subtleties, between the truth of these statements and the obstacles that are still preventing me from enjoying, appreciating my true nature as moksha. So it's a very subtle, contemplative sort of work that is conducive to what? To pure knowledge, conducive to what? To understanding, okay? To self-knowledge and moksha. So whereas all other actions, they are conducive to what? To mental purification, mental improvement, mental betterment, cause and effect. And the effect of all those actions is going to be a better, more pure, more prepared mind, intellect, body, everything. The body-mind construct is going to mature, it's going to purify, it's going to improve, become more wise, and so on. It's cause and effect. But when we do this intellectual sadhana of contemplate around these statements, these notions, these Mahavakyas. So it's a very subtle contemplation that is not conducive to experience, because all the other results of those sadhanas was an experience. I'm going to experience a better mind. I'm going to experience a more discriminating mind. I'm going to experience peace and more sattva. And so it's so conducive to experience. And this Jnana Yoga contemplation is not conducive to experience, but is conducive to self-knowledge. You understand? It's conducive to the knowledge of my true fundamental nature as consciousness awareness. So it's a different, and all other sadhanas are going to bring us to this stage, of mental purification, mental subtlety, so that we can be fit for Jnana Yoga, and thereby we can get the results of our intellectual efforts. And the results of this intellectual effort is not an experience, but is knowledge, pure knowledge in respect to that which I am. You guys understand the difference? You understand, Mark? Nothing new, right?
Yeah, I'm understanding. Yeah. Talking of which, I've been practicing, working, contemplating on the Mahavakya, Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya, Brahma Jiva Nopara for the last few days, just all the time thinking how this relates to the world and myself as pure awareness, and how everything just appears within as awareness, everything. So Yeah, this is, I'm not explaining very well, but this is
No, you are.
what I'm working on at the moment. So,
yeah,
yes.
that's a very subtle contemplation. It's a beautiful Mahavakya. Yeah. That which is real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Real,
it's,
and the fact that disappearing jiva is equal or is the same in its nature as Brahman.
sorry, I'm not hearing you very well, Arlinda. It's breaking
No,
up.
no, I was
Can you
just
say that again?
No, I was just saying that you explained yourself properly. That it's a nice mantra. It's a nice Mahavakya. You know, that established that that Satya is the only reality, which is me, consciousness, Brahman, and then Mithya is not real but apparent real, and the nature of the jiva and the nature of Brahman, you know, are the same. So it's a beautiful contemplation, you know.
Mm. It's very good as well, because then when ignorance appears in the mind, you can see that it's just an appearance within awareness. It's not actually real in any way at all.
Yeah,
It's just a phenomenon which is arising and then dissipating.
yeah.
And you're left with just the pure awareness, and so the ignorance goes away.
Absolutely, yeah. Because everything happens in the mind of the jiva, and in the mind of the jiva, it's nothing but consciousness, you know, consciousness appearing as the mind, or the mind exists within consciousness and not apart from consciousness. The jiva fundamentally is consciousness. So and everything that happens within the scope of jiva's mind is happening within the scope of consciousness and not apart from consciousness, because the nature of the jiva is consciousness. The jiva is consciousness, and this again. There is a background.
Hold on, yeah, that's. Yeah, I think. Okay, sorry, I know I was using a sewing machine in the background. Sorry about that.
So, any contributions?
Arlindo, can you make me, for example, an example of doing karma yoga, for how to do it, karma yoga in the case of fears? Because you remember I asked you the last time how to do karma yoga in the case of intense desire. Can we make an example in the case of fears? For example, I have a lot of fear of something, of my grandfather that is ill.
Yeah.
How to do an example to how to do karma yoga in this
right.
In this case.
So how do you do karma yoga when you have desires?
So I try to consecrate my action to not do the desire if I can renounce. This is the word. To renounce the desire and if the desire is too intense, I try to not to do the desire, but not for have some result of not for enjoying it. I do it for giving give it to Ishvara.
Yeah.
And not
so
only for
it's the same mechanism, Claudio, because fear is a negative desire. So desire is a positive fear. We are afraid, and then desire things to protect, to cover up, our fears. And then when we say that fear is a negative desire, because fear, when we really acknowledge our fear and we are dealing with fear and fear alone, is nothing, but it's a huge desire to avoid something. Okay, but it's a desire, right?
Yeah.
Our desires are either desires to accomplish, gain, and get something, or to push away and avoid something, you know. But it's desire what? What's the desire? To control.
To control.
I want what I want, and I don't want what I do not want. I want to control. No? And these energies of desires and fears, raga, dveshas, you know, when they come in, so we need to identify these energies, and then we just say, okay, Ishwara, again, I'm dealing with a positive fear or negative fear, or negative desire or positive fear, or howsoever we want to look into it. And then you follow the same procedure, you know, you say, okay, so I know that this desire to avoid something is not going to resolve my problem. I know that this desire to gain something is not resolve my problem. So I have intellectual understanding to neutralize and filter this energy, which is the same energy. And if I don't, you don't know, and then I have to deal in another way. So accepting my limitations, and then, you know, and pray to Shwara to take it easy on me, and you know, and so on. And I keep doing my best, you know, and I don't engage much on these positive and negative desires. No, I again and again, I bring my mind to the teaching until I understand that try to control and manipulate the field, you know, according to my positive and negative desires is not the solution. But sometimes we are not, you know, we are not powerful enough to abstract, you know, to filter those desires and fears. So, and then if they come, I just say, okay, I'm afraid of this. So the most important thing with fear, Claudia, is that fear should never paralyze us. You know, we don't want to be paralyzed. And another thing is that there are fears that are just a total subjective superimposition. There is nothing really to be afraid. But another thing is a real threat, a real danger. When there is a danger, and then it's wise to protect. You know, the Gita covers this topic as well. You know, so if there is a real threat, a real danger, and then we better, you know, take that into account and deal with it. But most of our fears, they are just projections. We just like, oh my God, you know, something is going to get me, something is going to to threaten my existence, and so on, you know. And then we have, oh my God, maybe I have a cancer now. I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, oh, it's not looking good. Maybe you have a bad cancer coming. You know, well, I will know it tomorrow. And then I'm home trembling. Oh my God, maybe I'm going to get that kind of diagnosis. Huh? So when these fears come, we need to understand that, I mean, the first thing, if for anybody who is really afraid of death, you know, you just pray to Ishwara to calm your mind down, and then you start processing the teachings. You know, everything that's born is meant to die. Everything is time bound. Okay, so I had a beautiful life, and I'm grateful for everything I was given. And if my time is meant to be approaching, you know, I want to live with elegance. I want to live not, you know, kicking and screaming and blaming and whining, you know, fighting with Shwara. I just say, oh Shwara, thank you. If you take my life at this point, it means that that's perfect. Otherwise, it would not be happening that way. You know, this is a perfect order. So you have to, again and again, the mind is too agitated with desires and fears. We need to try to somehow regulate it, you know, calm it down, even if we need to, even if we need to pray to Ishwara. And then next step, we start just taking certain control. How are we going to control the mind? I mean, some willpower is necessary, but most importantly, knowledge, understanding. You know, we go through the laws of karma, you know, So everything that's born, the natural laws that everything that comes in nature goes. Everything comes, grows, and goes. So once we have it clear, what's the big deal? You understand? So, and then on another level, so if we have a good degree of self-knowledge, we just go and we start working our self-knowledge. Say, hey, you know, Ishwara, you're going to take this body of food. You're going to take away this body of food. But you know what? I am that by which you're going to be taking, dismantling, disassembling this body construction, you know, and bring it back to the element. I am that by which you do that. You understand? So this knowledge, regarding my true free nature as Satya, the substratum of everything, is there to humanize, humanizing you. Got confused now. Line.
Immunize.
Immunizing. Yeah. Humanizing. Yeah.
You mean humanize?
Huh?
Is it humanize? Are you
No.
human?
No. Immunity.
Immunize. Okay.
Immunize. Okay.
I think immunization. I think it's easier to say.
Yeah. So we want to be immune against the shocks of life as much as possible. And the biggest shock for the samsari, for the karmis, is when the call to go comes, you know? I mean, nobody suffers that. People suffers the idea that the anticipation, the notion that, oh, I'm going to die. So everybody likes, oh, no, I want to die sleeping the night because I will never get in contact with the shock, you know, that, oh, you are going to die now because you have a terminal disease or this and that. Oh, in a kind of accident, so you don't have time to think about your death. You know? So we need to have this knowledge properly established, the knowledge about Itya and the knowledge about such, so that these fears that you are referring to, Claude, they don't, you know, they don't affect me too much, you know. So we want to not to be affected by adversities, you know. That's the meaning of moksha. The moksha is freedom from whatsoever life brings to you. Pleasure, because everybody knows that life is about pleasures and pains. Yeah? Adversities, circumstance, and unfavorable circumstance, you know. Moments of punya, moments of papa. So what is the big deal about getting moksha if I still have to go through pleasures and pain in the same way? The big deal is that when I have moksha, I'm not going to suffer the papas. I'm not going to suffer the adversities. So I have a immunity. I have a, you know, a defense. So I have a defense. Why? Because I'm wise. I'm wise. I know my nature's Satya, and I know in Mitya, Ishwara keeps bringing all these things, you know. So it projects, it creates, and it maintains, and then it recycles everything. So knowing that, I leave it all to Ishwara, and I accept that. So this is the fructification of self-knowledge, or the fructification of Mitya knowledge as well, you know. This faith that Ishwara is unfolding each one of our karmas to perfection, you know. Therefore, there's nothing to be afraid. Why? Because I have Shraddha in the Lord. I have Shraddha in my Prarabdha karma. I know that everything that's unfold is unfold to my own benefit. You know, it's again and again, it's appearing to me as a means to help me to keep growing, you know, growing and growing. So if I need a new body, so who am I to have an argument with Ishwara? I know nothing. No, Ishwara say, no, this guy, he has run his karma for this time. He needs a new body and a new set of circumstances. He's stuck there. So let's pull him. Let's put somebody else there who can carry on, exhausting and growing, you know. And this person is a bit stuck. Let's pull him and give him a new set of circumstances, a new body, and so on. So Ishvara knows all of that. It's ongoing, right? So this is part of the knowledge of Karma Yoga.
Yeah, you know, when 2-3 months ago, my grandfather was very ill, and there was also the virus and all the things. I was scared. I was so worried a lot, dealing with these big fears, and I started practicing Karma Yoga. But I do it with my few notions that I had at the time, and it was very, it calms me, you know, it was good for me, but I don't realize how I do it. So for this reason I ask you these questions, because I practice Karma Yoga, but maybe I don't understand it fully, so I'm a little bit confused. And I ask to me how I do that. I was very calm after doing Karma Yoga, but
it
how
worked.
I do it, you know?
Yeah, how did they do it? Good. Yeah. So Mario, we are almost running out of time. You were going to say something. Did you raise your hand like that, or you're just saying?
Arlindo, I have a question.
Yeah, just a moment. You need to open your mic, Mario. So
here I am. In a practical everyday life, Karma Yoga could look like, and now example, offering to the field, of course, serving to your partner, to your parents, so in different kind of manners, just giving up the sense of doership and giving the result to Ishvara. That is the meaning.
Yeah, that's well put.
Yeah,
it's going to neutralize the ego. It's going to dissolve this infantile sense of being the doer and the author and the controller. That goes, you know, and the mind becomes more relaxed, because you know that, you know, if it would be in our hands, we would all control our karmas and circumstances and have 100% successful life, but it's not under. So all of that, yeah. Yes, Karen?
I was talking about thinking about a different kind of fear of not being good enough, smallness, you know, I won't be able to do it, you know. That's just been coming to me this week.
Yeah, we all suffer. Every jiva suffers from this sense of inadequacy, of insufficiency. You know, this in the old days we used to call it a complex inferiority complex. You know, so we all have to different degrees this sense of inadequacy. You know, we get this from culture, from our parents, from society, from life's births and births. We carry this ignorance, this fundamental ignorance, you know, that you are the body mind and there is something wrong with you. So we all have that. And then when you talk about the fear, is the fear of putting that thought to test, you know, because there is this thought, oh, I'm not good enough, and so on. Therefore, I better do not really, you know, perform, engage, you know, stand up, you know, and so on. I better just holding myself back. I know, because I lived most of my young age life like that, holding back, because I was really taken over by this feeling like, I mean, there is something really wrong with you. I was like, I could almost speak, you know. So, and then the fear is the fear of challenging that notion, you know. And we need to keep empowering ourselves as beautiful children of God. And we are free expressions of the Lord, and we are here to express our full potential as a jiva and interact and act, you know. And there is a fear. There is a fear. A fear is like, oh my God, if I act out, if I put myself out there and I start expressing myself fully, there is a possibility that people are going to reinforce this mind notion that there is something wrong with me. Understand? So we need to be careful when we need to avoid people who have a tendency to put us down. This is important, Carrie. We need to find a safe environment. That's why usually we find therapeutic groups and where people are going to support one another to come out of that fear, you know, in a safe environment, so that we can grow with this confidence that, oh, I am a beautiful creature like everybody else, you know. I just bought into this idea that there is something wrong with me. We buy into this, especially when this message is too persistent, you know, and frequent, and so on. So we need to break through that because it's very important. This tendency, you know, this feeling, thought feeling of inadequacy is going to disturb our minds when we come to Vedanta. We want to do our work, but again and again, we have to face with this obstacle. This is one of the biggest obstacles, low self-esteem. This low self-esteem obstacle is going to be agitated mind. Oh, there is something wrong with me. I'm not good enough, you know, and the mind is always like that. Understand? So therefore, we need to address it. It's part of our process, you know. You have Kama Yoga. Kama Yoga is a very good tool, you know. Go through the logic, go through the logic, you know, and then you understand that there is nothing wrong with you. You just have a certain program, like most of us, and this program has to be brought in the light of the teachings, you know, and being neutralized, being, you know, dissolved, killed, you know, because there is nothing really truthful to those notions of inadequacy. You know? Every jiva there has a sense of inadequacy on different degrees. Why? Because we all feel limited. We are limited by all means, and we live in very competitive societies. So, but everybody has a sense, oh my God, I wish I could know much more, I could do much more, you know, I could be more rich, more loving, more beautiful physically, I could be more and more, because it's, you know, we live in this limited body. We cannot be two things at the same time. Oh, I wish I would be a woman and a man. No, you have to choose. You have either to live as a man or as a, so there is always a sense of limitation. You know, I want to know so much more about this and this and that. I want to be here, but I would like to live in other places as well. So there is all sorts of limitation as a jiva. And there is a lot of competition among the jivas because they think that they are their attributes, their qualities. And then we run in these kind of problems, you know. So we need to look into all of that in the light of the teachings and understand that these limitations, they are inherent to all jivas. And even the jivas that are successful because they are more rajasic, or the jivas that are intellectuals, that they can read all books around them, you know, still they feel small and inadequate. Even the people who are very confident and plays big and feel like, oh, he has such a huge self-esteem, it's still that high self-esteem is covering up his sense of inadequacy, his low self-esteem. Everybody suffers of that. But it's important that we don't want to do Vedanta for the sake of developing a high self-esteem, but we don't want, high self-esteem is going to disturb the mind because a high self-esteem is a very high competitive personality, and that is a source of stress and agitation. So you want to find your balance, you know, but you don't want to feel small, you don't want to feel big, you just have to understand that you are jiva like any other, and all jivas are limited, yet in our nature we are something greater, and then we begin developing this knowledge, karma, dharma, and the attitude, and you know, our mind grows. And our mind becomes more and more brilliant. We become more intelligent, more wise, as we again and again we run through these teachings. You know, everybody who is in Vedanta for several years have noticed, you know, and said the same thing. Oh my God, I became so much more bright. clear, intelligent, and so wise. Right, Mario?
Thank you. I've got to run. Thank you.
Yeah, me too, me too. It's time for us to call. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Very nice. I'm glad that we have José Roberto and Mr. Ronald, Mr. Joseph. Good to have you guys with us as well. So we meet again next Monday. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Arlindo.
Thank you, Arlindo. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Linda. God bless. Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.